I'm the Sustainable Survivalist, and welcome to Sustainable Survival. Let's face it, sometimes stuff just happens. Many of you drive, and you have auto insurance on your vehicle. Why do you have auto insurance on your vehicle? Do you think you're going to get into a crash? One day you might. And it's good to know you're protected. The same thing goes with basic survival, especially when building a basic survival kit. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So let's get started. So you've already decided that you're ready to start building a very basic disaster survival kit. What is the first step? Well, one of the most important first steps that a lot of people overlook is education. Education nowadays is very cheap and easy to obtain. If you have an internet connection, you're already ahead of the game. Other good resources include literature, public library, and the list continues. The more educated you become, the less you need to carry in a disaster survival kit. The more knowledge you obtain, the more skills you're capable of doing for yourself. Now, since we're discussing a basic disaster survival kit, this is also going to be on a budget. If you're just getting started, it's quite overwhelming to jump in head first and try to buy everything. Some of us have the budget to do so, others do not. So this video is more catered to the person who's just getting started and having a basic disaster survival kit. The most important thing to have in your kit is water. Water is something that we all need. I recommend to get started to have at least the bare minimum of 1 gallon of water per person for at least a 3-day period. I would actually recommend longer than that, but that is a good starting point. This is an 8-gallon Reliance water container. I highly recommend Reliance, as they are a Canadian company, BPA free, and this type of container doesn't take up a lot of space. You can easily put it in a closet, out of sight, out of mind, and when you need it the most, it'll be there. Another thing I highly recommend is having at least a bare minimum of a 3-day food supply and storage of non-perishable food. Canned goods are good to start with. Even better are things like dehydrated number 10 cans. These cans here have a 10 to 30 year shelf life, depending on the conditions they're kept in. It's really important though to have at least, as I said before, a bare minimum of a 3-day supply. This is very easily obtained and quite cheap actually to do so. Another good thing to have in your kit is a very basic alert radio, especially one that's NOAA that will alert you to all hazards. It's really good to think about picking one that has the capabilities of some alternative charging, like a dynamo crank, a solar charger, or just keep extra batteries. This is another item that often gets overlooked, and it's one of the basic means of communication. If you need help, you want to make a loud noise. And one of the easiest ways to do so that doesn't take a lot of energy is a whistle. Very cheap, but very efficient. And definitely something I recommend having in your basic kit. I also highly recommend having a very basic first aid kit. Something to at least get you started. These can be expensive, but if you shop around you can find one that's a good mid-range, not too expensive, but not too cheap also. Because you do not want to be reliant on one of these kits and have it containing cheap equipment that's going to fail on you. Something that's really easy to obtain to put in your kit that is often something you already have around the house are things like duct tape, plastic sheeting, and a dust mask or respirator. These items can prove to be very valuable in most disaster scenarios, especially if you need to shelter in place. Now, some items that are overlooked in even a basic survival kit that are absolutely necessary are things for basic hygiene and sanitation. It's really easy to make a makeshift toilet out of a 5-gallon bucket and a trash bag, but these are materials that you need to have on hand just in case. Now, some truck stops and survival stores sell rest stop toilets, disposable one-time use toilets. Other good items are like no rinse soap, moist towelettes. These are basic things that get overlooked, but if you're in a situation where you're in one place in one location and cannot leave with no running water, it's good to have a means of keeping up basic sanitation. Now, tools are a great thing to have in a basic kit. Tools can come in very handy, especially something as simple as a wrench. Having a wrench, adjustable crescent wrench, or even a pair of pliers in your kit are very important in case you need to shut off things like utilities. In a situation where there is a disaster, and let's say there is a water main break or a line breaks in your house, a water line, it's really good to have the tools on hand to be able to fix that problem so that your home, place of residence, doesn't get flooded. Now, there are a lot of tools that I didn't mention that would go well in your basic survival kit, but tools really vary on the situation and the person, their environment. So it's good to kind of sit back and think about some of the tools you may need. But it's always good to have basic tools on hand. Even little simple things like a manual can opener. Tools can determine an inconvenience compared to a life-threatening situation. Something to think about. One thing that a lot of us are guilty of, when the storm comes through and knocks the power out, we're fumbling around looking for the flashlight. And oftentimes that flashlight doesn't have fresh batteries in it. So it's something to definitely keep in a basic disaster survival kit is some form of emergency lighting. Now, last thing on the list is a cell phone or some alternative means of communication. Communication is very important, especially if you need help. It's always good to have an alternative method on hand to charge that communication device, via it be extra batteries, a solar charger, dynamo charger, some sort of alternative charging method for that communication device. But it's something not to overlook. An extra cell phone and an emergency preparedness kit may be vital to your survival. Thank you for watching Sustainable Survival. This has just been a basic video, but it's a start. Thanks for watching, and good luck.